if you're starting interacting, you can't do this on the side. You have to plan your life around this. When I got here, I was working a graveyard shift at a hotel in valet because that way I wouldn't miss any auditions during the day, and I didn't have to ask permission to go audition. It was devastating. It was devastating for my body. Eventually, I ended up with heart palpitations and anxiety, and because I wasn't sleeping, I was sleeping like 2-3 hours in the morning, 2-3 hours at night. That's crazy. So if you're gonna go do this, you have to do it full force, and you can't do it on the side. You have to plan everything around it. There's a lot of sacrifice in this, but it's what it takes.
If you're a trained actor challenged by an increasingly fragmented industry, then this podcast is for you. The Hollywood Actor Podcast is an anthology made up of the stories of actors building their bodies of work by redefining themselves, reframing their goals, and reevaluating their opportunities. No matter where we are in our careers, we're always looking to be inspired and to share ourselves across our community. This podcast will offer that opportunity to guests and listeners alike as we all discover what it means to be a working, professional, successful actor. This is Jamie Young, and you're listening to the Hollywood Actor Podcast. My guest today is Rogelio Ramos. Rogelio is an actor based in Los Angeles and has worked on projects shot all across North America. He studies at Strasberg, Meisner, and most recently with renowned acting coach John Kirby. He and I first met while shooting the short film Monday with director Alejandro Montoya Marin in New Mexico. Rogelio's credits include Spider-Man 3, CBS's Scorpion, and HBO's Silicon Valley. Rogelio's voice can be heard on the upcoming Netflix animated series Fast and Furious Spy Racers. And you can find Rogelio on IMDb and Instagram as @Rogelio Ramos Actor. Now, let's listen into my conversation with Hollywood actor Rogelio Ramos. I did want to ask where the bulk of your training came from.
Oh, wow. Well, it's different things through the years. I took a couple of little classes at, in college. It wasn't very in-depth or anything. I would say that my training, even though it's not acting, really started when I started radio. When I was about 16, I started radio in my local radio station over there back home in Mexico. And then for about 5 years, I did live television as a sports anchor, also in Spanish. So that got me used to the camera and, got me loose with that stuff. Took a little classes in college, but it wasn't really until I moved to LA. In fact, that was the reason I moved to LA. I was only going to spend a summer here. I was at the Lee Strasberg Institute for a summer intensive course, and I was planning on going back to Texas because I didn't think I was going to get any work here or anybody was going to pay attention. But once I got here, people told me it's really hard to get an agent and this and that. But I got very lucky right away, and within the first couple of months, I think I started working. So I stayed. Now it's going to be almost 14 years.
Jeez.
Yeah.
It seems to have worked out.
It worked out, yeah. The first 6 months were incredible. They were so good that I thought, oh, geez, if this keeps on like this in a couple of years, I'm going to be living in the hills and everything. And then I realized that it's ups and downs,
But you found it very welcoming when you first. I mean, it's very impressive for and brave of people to finally make that leap. Say, I can go to LA and experiment, see what's going on over there,
yeah,
and then to stick around afterwards.
Yeah, I think that what helped me is, even though I didn't plan it this way, what helped me was that while I was in Texas, acting here and there, all over the state, really. So it's not centralized like in LA. So I was living in Laredo. My agent was in San Antonio, but that's also the Austin market. It's like one market, San Antonio and Austin. But sometimes I had auditions in Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, or sometimes the audition was in Austin, but the callback was in Dallas. I mean, he was driving all over the place. It's a big state. And I didn't realize that, I was getting the resume that helped me start here in LA. It's a right to work state in Texas. So, and I was so ignorant of all of this that I remember that my agent would say hey, Rogelio, congratulations, you booked a union gig. I'm like, cool. All right. She's like, so what does that mean, But then when I got to LA, I realized that I was already eligible for SAG. I was eligible for AFTRA, and I was just ready to go. And I had some,
That's perfect. That's exactly where you want to be, right?
Yeah, exactly.
unknowingly.
Unknowingly, yeah, and so I was all ready for that, and I had just worked. I moved here in 2005, and earlier that year, I worked in this super indie thing. I mean, the whole budget was less than $10,000. First time director. I was a first time actor, really, on for anything dramatic, and I played the lead. It was called Tragedia de Macario, Macario's Tragedy, and we ended up doing a feature film with it, super guerrilla style filming. And eventually, after I moved to LA later that year, I learned that it got into Sundance. So it was everything happened kind of crazy like that.
What were some of the high profile projects that you worked on in Texas? Were any of them co stars on TV or
No,
indie films that were particularly momentous?
no, nothing really big. Really, most of the stuff that I worked on was commercial work and voiceover work.
Okay, it was commercials. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
know
mean,
Texas,
I
like
did a couple of
today,
things, independent films or whatever, but nothing that was really, nothing high profile, like you say. It wasn't until I moved to LA that I started hitting those.
but maybe that's because like it's really important in the different markets to get your to beef up your resume before you come to Los Angeles.
Yeah, and
And
and that's exactly what happened. Although I didn't plan it that way, when I got to LA, everything seemed to
right,
just like the stars were aligned, and unwillingly, I did
well,
all
not
the
necessarily
right things,
with
and it helped.
right, not necessarily with even within television. But having the commercials because a lot of actors, I think, when they move to Hollywood and they get their first agent, they get the first agent commercially, right? And then they can move over so that they're represented across the board with a single agency.
Yeah,
Did
no,
that happen to you, where you represented first through a
well,
commercial
it's
agent?
a funny story. I'm not gonna say what agency it was, but I remember going with this agency that my first agency here. I mean, the manager signed me right away. Now, my manager. This is the story. Um, the agency in San Antonio was called Condor Artista, a great agency, and it was owned back then by the founder, which was Priscilla Condra, and her daughter is an actress that worked quite a bit as a child, and even now, In fact, her son-in-law is one of the actors in the new John Wick movie and stuff. So, but anyway, she was my agent, and I was booking quite a bit over there. And one time she said, "Rogelio, can you come to San Antonio? My sister, who's a manager in LA, is coming to talk to the actors here who's interested, for people who's interested in going to LA and what they need." I'm like, "Nah, not really. I don't want to. Please come, because you've been doing very well. I think you should really meet her." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I went to San Antonio and I met her, and I remember she was talking to several of us, and she kept looking at me. And afterwards, she kind of grabbed me and she says, like, you have an interesting face for TV. I think you might do well. I was like, oh, okay. So when I moved to LA, she knew that I was booking in San Antonio and in Texas, so she signed me right away. So that's how I got a manager. And then the agency that I went for, I was recommended by a friend. Auditioning, he said, "Well, I'm gonna assign you in for commercial, but you're not ready for theatrical." And so he didn't sign me for that. But a couple of months later, I booked Spider-Man 3, so that was that was a surprise. So that
You
happened, and
proved
about and
him.
then yeah,
Yeah,
and then a year later, I changed agencies, and I was with another boutique agency, great people as well for a while, and then I moved on to a bigger one. So yeah,
sure. We'll keep moving where people believe more strongly in you.
exactly. That's very important, and that's why I'm after 14 years almost, I'm still with the same manager because I mean, I was so broke when I moved to LA, and I booked. I remember my first national commercial, and then a couple of weeks later, like The Shield, my first co-star, and I had just asked my mom for $1,400. Can you please lend me 1,400? I need to join AFTRA, and then like 2 weeks later, I had to join SAG, or I couldn't work on The Shield. And I couldn't. I didn't have anybody to ask money to anymore. And my manager says, "Don't worry about it. It's okay. I'm gonna pay from my pocket, and you just pay me as you go." I mean, nobody does that. Nobody does that.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
she really believed in me. And within 6 months, I paid her back. She would call me and say, like, "Hey, Rogelio, I have a check for a certain amount here for you. How much can you afford?" Oh, knock out a couple of hundred here. And then within 6 months, it was paid off.
gosh,
Yeah.
this is a great woman to have run into. Well,
Yeah, I know.
in
She's
Texas
she's
too.
yeah, she's like yeah, she's Texan, by the way. Yeah, she's like family. I mean, she really is. We consider us each other family.
That's important. Not just people that believe in you professionally, but maybe as a person
Yeah,
that
exactly.
you'll succeed as Rogelio.
Exactly. No, they're great, and her employees and everybody, they're all really great. What can I say?
Does she help you bounce between markets? Did you do that?
Well, I guess managers. She is the agencies. I think they are. They're whatever market it is, because I do have a manager, for example, in in Miami, but it's a whole other ball game. That manager is exclusively for like telenovelas and stuff like that, stuff that is not on the radar at all of my manager or agents here in LA. Because it's non-union. It's completely other. It's a completely other ball game. It's completely different.
Right.
Yeah.
But you submit self tapes there, or have you
No,
booked any
I've
work
had a
out there in
couple of
Miami?
auditions here actually, that I got through my manager from Miami,
Okay.
and that's about it. Yeah, and a couple of close calls. I was almost involved in one that was shooting in New York that is about to come out. I have a couple of friends that did get in the show that have more experience in telenovelas. It's a different style. No- Although they are getting sharper, they're getting a little better. But usually telenovelas is just a different way of working and a little bit of a different style of acting. It can be a little big, and here in LA, obviously, what's celebrated is hyperrealism. The more real you can be, the better.
Well, when you plug into the scene here,
Uh-huh.
into the industry with your manager, with your agent,
Hmm.
and you're also taking classes as well when you
Oh
can,
yeah.
right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, off and on, I'm taking classes. Yeah. Look, and I hear this a lot, and it's true. I think actors are the laziest of artists because a painter, really, I mean,
Hey,
a painter paints often, and a musician has to, work often, unless you're a theater actor, which in your case you are, and you're working constantly in theater and stuff. You're not really working on your skills as much. As an actor, unless you're, in classes and workshops and this and that, or working all the time, which is not the case. You're not working every single day, even unless you're a series regular or something. So, so yeah, you take classes. I remember going to Strasberg at first. That's when I moved here, and then after that, I did another 6 months of Strasberg, and that was fine. And I learned some things from there, and also got confused in other things, but it's part of the process. And then I started Meisner, and so I studied Meisner in Strasbourg, and I thought I was all into the method, which I am. It is helpful, but sometimes when you're working with methods, you can get in your head, you know. And then I found this other guy, Jeff Seymour, who's an anti-method guy, completely anti-method. In fact, he has a book called "The Real Life Actor." And I remember after I went to his class, within like 2 or 3 weeks, I completely just let go and became very loose and got that organic feeling, the loose feeling that I had before I studied the methods. Of course, I still incorporate stuff that I learned through the methods, but knowing that it doesn't have to be everything like that, and then I have this more freedom, to
yeah.
yeah. So look, there's not the method. There's your method. You study several things, but you don't have to marry those things that you study. Just see what works for you and what doesn't, and whatever does, you start developing your own method. Really.
And you found different tools at the different studios that have worked for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For example, with Strasbourg, I learned to be a little more aware of my body and relaxation and things like sense memory and it sometimes works very well. And with Meisner, it was more imagination. I remember with Meisner, some of the first exercises, it's about repetition. It sounds ridiculous, but you're learning how to listen actively. It doesn't sound like important, but it's really important. It's one of the most important things as an actor is to actually just sit down and listen without anticipating. And I learned a little bit of that with Meisner. I think Meisner helped me with that. And then, of course, some method teachers will tell you after you graduate, they go like, okay, so after you learn all this, now forget all about it and go out. Like just forget about it and go. They say
Yeah.
that because like don't let it be in your head. So I think that's what happened when I went to this other guy, Jeff Seymour. He kind of with him, I realized that it's okay that you don't have to do every single thing and every single exercise and everything to prepare for something. Sometimes you just read the script and you're like, oh, I'm there. I get this guy. I am this guy, and sometimes you can't connect. You can't connect. And when you can't connect, it's when you take out those little tools that you might have, learned from or acquired from the method acting.
That's that's exactly right. That's my personal experience too. Is that I'm
Right?
glad I had a lot of training at I went to the Stella Adler Conservatory, but it's more about that training allows you to be consistent and to connect when your natural talent or your personality isn't connecting
Yeah. Huh,
for
exactly.
that night
Exactly.
for that particular project.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Yeah.
like thinking of it that way.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's a very healthy way to do it too, because then you do get to use tools and put them down
Yeah.
when
If
you're
you don't
not
need them,
using
if you
them.
don't need it, you
Otherwise,
don't
they're
need it.
pulling you down, right?
Yeah, there's recently I auditioned for a very successful show on Netflix. You know, it's Narcos. And this casting director has been calling me every single season. I almost booked a guest star in the first season. I was pinned on a veil for like a week, and it was a big deal because I was about to go to Japan and China, and I was like, I need to know now to cancel the trip, or if not, the insurance is not going to cover the cancellation. And but I was released, and now that they're working with Narcos Mexico, and they're working with a character that is from my area, from my state, from my I went with a coach who's a friend of mine, and I remember just reading it, and reading it and learning it and just doing it, and she goes like, Rogelio, I can't coach you. Like it's just dead on. Is what you're doing is what it is. I mean,
It's you.
it's you, or it's just the side of you, whatever. And she's like, how are you not in the show yet? This is perfect for you. But it's the nature of the beast, and with that one I didn't need a lot of help. I know these people. I used to hang out with people like that from the cartels. I used to literally hang out with people from the cartels. So, it was just came naturally. For other things where it's like very different from you, or it's very different from your life experiences, what the character is going through, then, you have to take out those little tools, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, and shifting back to the business of it,
Yeah.
you said Spider-Man 3 was like a big credit when you first moved to LA.
Yeah. That was a really great personal thing. I'll tell you why. When I moved, I come from a small town, and I love my town. I am who I am and what I am and how I am because I'm there, I'm from there. Being bicultural and all of that. But it's also a small town, and there's a lot of haters. It's people usually by in their 20s. It's very conformist. By the 20s, people, they have a decent living and they get married and all that stuff. And if you were a little different, you're a little weird. So, I didn't tell people that I moved to LA. The last thing they knew, I was still doing the news in San Antonio or something. So when I got the part, which was unbelievable, I couldn't believe it, and I finally did it. I'm told only a couple of friends in the family. I said, don't say anything because if they cut the part out, I'm not going to hear the last of it. I'm never going to hear the end of it. They're going to make fun of me the rest of my life. And when the movie came out, they had one of those midnight showing on Thursday, like the day of the premiere, like before Friday. And apparently there was lines going around the block to go see the movie in my hometown and everything. And then all of a sudden I come out and everybody's like, what? And it just went crazy. The next day, like one of my best friends was calling me, going like, dude, you're a celebrity here, man. And I'm not saying this is presumption because I'm nobody, and here nobody, believe me, I'm not a big deal. But over there, it's a small town, and they see you and they knew me because I did the news there before. And then I started hearing all sorts of stories, like from friends going like, yeah, man, I was in the movie theater. And then people started going like, yeah, it's him. No, it's not. No, yeah, it is. I know him. No, it's not. Or people staying after the credits going like, see, that's his name. There it is. I was right. I was right. Or my aunt said that somebody actually screamed out, that guy's from Laredo. I know him, or something like that. So it was a really special kind of thing. And to kind of, I don't know, it was for a personal
Yeah,
it was just great. It was great. And then of course when I went
and
back
pretty early
home,
on in your career
oh
too.
yeah, like just like in the first 6 months or whatever. Well, that was a year after the movie came out, but yeah, it was great because then I would go back, and then everybody would treat me really nice, and people want to take pictures, and then people that I know for a fact would make fun of me and everything. Were like, hey man, I always knew you were gonna make it. And I haven't made it or anything. I haven't made it, or at least not. But they don't know that. They see you in a movie and they're like, wow, he made it. So it's the
Yeah,
way
but
it
it's funny,
is.
like everybody's idea of success, and especially like civilians have no idea about the industry. They
Oh
just
yeah,
they
exactly.
watch Entertainment Tonight. They read People, and they go to Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, and, and,
With
and
their
go like, oh, I
girlfriend.
see
Oh
you all
my
the time
god!
on commercials, and I see you on shows, and I see you on thing. That wow, you made it, and they don't know that it's a daily struggle here to get them to get the next gig.
Yeah, and there's so many more people now that are arriving to LA, and so many
Uh-huh.
platforms, and so you're
Oh
you're really
yeah,
competing for the industry's eyeballs too, which you constantly see. Like you see these big networks spending a lot more money than they used to,
yeah,
trying to and experimenting with different ways to market their product.
yeah. And everything that's happening like with Netflix. I mean, look at Roma. I mean, the first like Netflix movie nominated for an Oscar. It's crazy stuff. Yeah, it's so much there's so many other opportunities now. So much more opportunities.
Yeah, and I don't feel like things have shaken out yet. Like a lot of the platforms are still figuring out
Yeah,
who to court, how much to pay,
yeah.
how to market. Like that Bird Box film that was marketed in a very interesting way. I think it was originally like panned, kind of.
You know, it
And then you started seeing a lot of like social media
yeah.
challenges, and it
It's
was on.
in a
Yeah,
weird
it
way,
was.
as many people as are trying to get into the business, it's also a small industry. For example, you just mentioned Bird Box, right? The boy,
Yeah.
I know the boy. He calls me
Hmm.
Uncle Rogelio
What?
because his sister, she's a lovely, lovely girl. She played my daughter about 3, 4 years ago in a commercial, and we really hit it off. And I hit it off with her parents too, which are wonderful, wonderful parents and people. So I've gone to their house and played with them and hang out with their parents and everything. Uh, um, and now and now he's like in Bird Box. It's a small industry. Everybody knows each other. If you're working at least a little bit, you're gonna end up bumping with the same people here and there. You know.
Well, I feel like even if they're not working, somehow they know you, Rogelio. You kind of get around.
Hey, what does that mean? No, no, no. I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
No, what was your first co-star? Did you find that that
Oh
was
my god,
maybe?
my first co-star was the Shield, and I was horrible in it. I did one of my things. I think I was horrible because I was so nervous and so scared. During the audition, I was fine. I remember because I was playing a guy, and at one point I'm about to rape a girl, and I remember unzipping my pants in the auditioning and just pulling down the thing and putting my hand inside my trousers like I was gonna pull something out or whatever. And I remember walking out going like, "Shit, maybe I went too far," and then boom, I booked it. But then when I was on set, I got all nervous, and another really interesting thing happened, and this is just about how, like I said, how small the industry is. There's an actress from Laredo called Julia Vera. This lady's been in everything. She's got over 100 credits in IMDb. She was in the latest, like Wasp and Iron Man and the Wasp, and she's been like in Blow and Speed and like everything you can imagine. The lady's been in commercials. We've done so together. She's from my hometown and she's friends with my mother, and I've never met her before. I just knew about her.
Mm.
And when I show up on location for The Shield, they're like, "Oh, Rogelio, this is Julia Vera. She's playing Abuela. This is Rogelio's playing Gutierrez." And I'm like, "Oh, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you." And then I go like, "You speak Spanish?" And she goes, "Oh, sí, yo hablo español." I say, "Oh, cool. And where you from?" And she goes like, "Oh, this little town you never heard of it. It's called Laredo." I was like, "You shitting me? I'm from Laredo." You are? Yeah. And, immediately it's like, "So, well, what's your family? Who's your family?" "Well, my dad is Dr. Ramos and Rogelio, and my mom is," and then I said, in my mom's side of the family, they're the Gomez Rejon. "Oh, of course I know the Gomez Rejon family. Oh, Dr. So-and-so. Yes, yes, yes. I have a friend of mine. Then when I go out there, she takes care of my skin and everything. Elizabeth Gomez, is she your aunt?" I go like, "No, that's my mom." "What? You're Liz's son? What the hell?" And ever since she became like my godmother here. And I just worked with her on an AFI, two AFI short films in last year, actually. Uh, in both of them, she played my
Oh, was
mother.
that
Yeah, that's the lady who played my mom.
right? In the can when you're running for president,
Yeah,
and that one
that's Julia
AFI
Vera. I mean,
film,
she was
the
good. You
series.
remember, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's really good. Now, check her IMDb. You'll be like blown away. Will and Grace, X Files. Like she's been in Dexter. She's been in everything, doing guest stars and co-stars. And I mean, she's been in everything. That lady. She's one of the number one Latino actresses playing like moms and grandmas. You know.
And you got to work with her on your first co-star here in LA.
Yeah, exactly. See,
Unreal.
small town. I know. I'm telling you, it's a small industry. If you work in a small industry.
Yeah. Was was your agent manager pretty? I mean, they're obviously pleased that you booked that co-star. Did it translate into any weight in any way?
Well, look, whenever you do a co-star, first of all, you get some material for your reel, which is still on my reel. Second of all, it's IMDb credits. And IMDb credits, it's important. So I have something like 30, 32 IMDb credits. Um, and some people have more, but it's also not just the amount, but the quality. I've been lucky that maybe I don't work as often and as many short films and as many stuff, but the stuff that I do have is stuff recognizable. So it's like Sex and the City and Spider-Man and The Shield and The Bridge and in Silicon Valley and names that people recognize. So I'm lucky that way. That when I do work, is usually something that is recognizable and that gives you a little more credibility to your IMDb, which is what people
Does that
the first thing. Yeah,
knocks down your star meter on IMDb?
for a little bit, and then it goes back up to the thousands and thousands. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean that must help as well within the industry, especially if it's coming down to two actors maybe who are auditioning, and then they start they're not sure, so they start looking at social media, IMDb, that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, when you are, I guess, when your agents submit you, even if it's not IMDb, just your resume, they see your resume. Your agent submits you, and the casting office is gonna look at your resume. If they see noticeable names and that you've been working, for fairly recently, they bring you in.
And that's a big hurdle, getting that first co-star. And
Yeah,
now you have a litany of co-stars and a couple guest stars under your
yeah,
belt
yeah.
now.
Correct. Yeah.
That must help you get into the same casting offices and bigger casting offices that say, oh, he can handle that workload.
Yeah, what's great is that you're doing okay when you keep getting called back to those casting offices. Like for example, with the one for Carla Hul, who's doing Narcos, I did book the bridge, with her, and she keeps calling me every single season. She tells me, "Hang in there, Rogelio. There's gonna be something for you, man. I mean, you're great, and just hang in there. You know that you're doing something right if they keep calling you back, calling you back, calling you back, and not only calling you back, but they're making me read for really big roles." So right now I'm at a point where when it comes to stuff like that, I'm reading for really good roles, but I'm competing with like Diego Luna and Michael Peña. Those are the people that like I auditioned for those roles that they did, for example, in Narcos. And I don't care if I could have given the best performance anybody's ever seen, but they're gonna get the part because they're good actors, of course, but they're also put the name recognition. So you're hitting with that now. Recently, I'm not going to say the name of the project, but I auditioned for a reboot of a very successful '90s show, a drama show, and I went in there. It was great. That same day, immediately call back with the casting with the producers and everybody. Man, they loved it. They were talking, chatting with me. Casting assistant is a good friend of mine, so she was giving me feedback afterwards. I'm like, they loved you and everything. I was like, so yeah, but they already have so and so and doing like screen tests and chemistry tests with the other actors. And it's a guy from Mexico comes from a an incredible acting family who's very well known. And of course, if I was a producer, if I was an executive, I would give him the role, even if the other guy was better. I'm not saying that I was, but I'm just saying that I'm at that point where it's like I'm auditioning for these really great roles, but I'm competing with people that have great careers, and it's kind of frustrating. But just need a chance here, one of these days, hopefully.
Yeah, it's just a series of chances that people are giving you, right? That
Yeah.
kind of make up an actor's career.
Yeah, yeah. And during the Christmas party for my agency, I told my agent like, "Hey, can we get some feedback or something from a certain office?" And he goes like, "Dude, don't worry about it. I know you. I know your work. You're great. It's just you just need somebody to give you a break, for something a little bit bigger, and so you can make that jump from guest star to hopefully series regular.
Well, and you can save the production money as well because you just be getting, SAG base pay instead
For
of
the first
a
season,
named
yeah.
actor negotiating
Well,
money,
I mean,
right?
maybe a little bit more than SAG pay because even now as guest star, I do get paid above. They do negotiate a little bit above the SAG rate, actually. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. It's I make a few
Gee,
I make a few
way
more
up.
$100 a day. So yeah, they're trying to like anywhere from 1,200 to 1,500 per DM or something. That's what usually they try to
That is
get. But sometimes they go
so
like
impressive.
sometimes they go like no. And okay, so they were like, no, it's not gonna happen. Okay, but the agent tries. My agent tries. Sometimes they go for it, sometimes they don't. That's how it is.
But you have an agent that is trying, and
Oh
she
yeah.
thinks that that's worth trying because of how talented you are and how many credits you
Well, I hope
have.
so. I hope.
That is so impressive, man.
So yeah.
And that's why I'm trying to interview all sorts of different Hollywood actors that come at it from different paths. And it's not, I'm not quantifying the level of success everybody has, but it's very interesting to see how they're parlaying the different projects into higher paying roles, into just consistently working within the Hollywood film industry. And that's so
Well,
impressive
we're
and
talking about success.
actually wanted
It's,
to have
it's
you on the
such a
podcast.
broad word when it comes to this business because I mean, I remember starting out and going like, if I can just live out of commercials, just do a few national commercials a year, I'll be a happy guy. And then you're doing that, and then I've had a year when I hit like 11 national commercials in one year, and so now that's like okay. And I remember like if I can only get into like maybe if I can just one or two animation voiceovers, fine. And then finally you do it, and like, oh, that's cool. And then you're like, if I can just get a guest star, and then you get all those, and what before seemed like, oh my god, I'll be happy when I get there. Now you're there. Now I'm like, man, I'm frustrated because I'm plateaued because I'm auditioning against these guys, and then you realize, but you're auditioning against like Oscar nominees. so so it's like, hey, it's not so bad, but what is success really when it comes to that? How many a teacher used to tell me that 1 out of 2,000 aspiring actors actually get to make a living. And I don't know if those numbers are true, but I know that is in the hundreds at least. And just the fact, in fact, I remember a very specific conversation. So this is if any other actors out there, or people are starting out or frustrating or they plateaued. This conversation helped me. I was complaining to a friend of mine as we were having sushi. Man, it's been slow and this and that, and now I'm lucky enough that I get full benefits through SAG, that I'm already vested, that I have a pension plan. Like, it's that's very fortunate. And he turns and says, "Look, Rogelio, let's put things in perspective." I said, "What?" He said, "There's like 100,000 SAG actors." He said, in the United States, maybe, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30% are actually active. The rest is people that joined and then, like, got married and left or whatever. And these are just the union actors. I don't know if those numbers are right, by the way. You can look it up and tell me different if I'm wrong. Sorry. He said, and then, not counting the thousands and thousands that want to be, in the union and stuff like that, right? He said, and out of those like 20% that are active, like maybe, I don't know what percentage he gave me, like a very small percent actually work enough that they get benefits and this and that. I said, dude, you're in the top like 5-10%. What are you complaining about? And then you take a step back and go like, yeah, I should be thankful. It's just, you become cynical. And it's important not to be. Julia Vera told me when I first got here, told me that, and that I didn't realize that until later. Like, yeah, she's right. You do become cynical after working for a while, for years and years.
There are 100% cynical actors. You don't strike me as a cynical actor, right?
No, no, I'm not necessarily, but I mean, you have cynical moments and cynical thoughts.
Yeah, well, it's more about I think like you were speaking to earlier that an actor's career is full of ups and downs, full of plateaus.
Yeah,
But you're ambitious, and so every plateau you do get frustrated, but you are through that frustration figuring out how you can progress, what
yeah,
you need to be doing,
yeah,
how you can be working on your craft, or speaking with your agent, or what type of classes you need to be. You're keeping active
yeah, 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 yeah. You
because
have to.
you're holding yourself to account.
The thing is that I put myself in a position where it's like, if I don't make it doing this, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. Like, I threw completely myself out of. So it's worked out, which is great. I know that when I retire, I will have a pension. I mean, that's great. I'm gonna have a pension. I'm gonna have benefits. I'm gonna have, I'm okay. And I do make, decent money, and not crazy money, but decent. I make more money than most of my friends back home. Doesn't count for a lot because you're in LA and everything's so expensive. But at least, I'm making a living. But yeah, I mean, you're always trying to do something bigger and something this and something that, and yeah, like you said, you plateau, but it's almost like you're just taking a breather or learning just enough so for the next step, you know.
Yeah, and it can create a vacuum for creativity. You can work on your own writing, or
Yeah, or work on stuff like the AFI projects and stuff like that when you're, because it's rare that you get a chance to really show your chops, because usually doing guest stars and co-stars, and it's not a lot to work with. Guest stars do, but then you get involved in stuff like AFI or USC with thesis films where you can actually be the lead and show a little bit more range. So that's great. You can be working on stuff like that, between other gigs.
is that where you've been able to show most of your range? Is at AFI?
I think so. I think so. As more range, yeah. And then you see your work and you go like, oh, okay. You see how much you've learned and how much you're applying, and you start noticing the changes in the progression in the work. When you have a chance to actually show a little bit of it.
Yeah. So like some actors, they try to have one play that they do every year to kind of keep sharp.
Hmm.
But maybe if you're really a film and TV actor, and you don't have a background in theater, maybe, yeah, submitting yourself to an AFI
Well, like,
breakdown.
I would love to do theater. I've been wanting to do theater for the longest time. The thing is, I'm in this position where I'm just busy enough that I can't commit to theater, because I do get those auditions, so every other day at last minute, and I do get those co-stars and guest stars and stuff and whatever that I can't say no to, and it's difficult to do theater when you're I'm just working just enough that it makes it difficult to commit to theater. Yeah,
Well, that's a good problem to have.
yeah, it's a good problem to have. Yeah. But yeah, no, but there's ups and downs. It's crazy the income. One year you're clearing, easily over the six figures, and then the next year you're making a third of that, and it's so frustrating. And it messes with your mind, man. It messes with your mind. You start doubting yourself, especially when you have years where you're like a veil after a veil after a veil, and you start thinking like, what am I doing wrong? I'm losing it. What's going on? And it's not you. It's just one of those things. It's just one of those things. You're just not tall enough or short enough or skinny enough or fat enough or dark enough or like what I get a lot is you're not Latino enough. Uh because I'm, kind of fair skinned and ambiguous. And for the general market, a lot of the Latino work that they offer is more ethnic, which is fine. It's perfectly fine. Um so if they don't think you look Latino enough, you might not get the role, even though I'm Mexican. So it's frustrating how that happens, and you can't do anything about it. Just keep it together.
Well, that's a perfect segue. What do you do to keep it together on a weekly basis? I mean, it can go to classes. It can be taking care of your body in some
Like
way.
right now, I'm taking care of my body. For example, right now, I just I got a personal trainer. I'm going to the gym several times a week. I'm eating. I'm trying to get more muscular. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm realizing that lately I've been going out for a lot of a really good bad guy parts for really good shows and stuff like that. And even though I have the voice and I have several things that help me, I think I need a little bit more of the physicality. I need to look a little more menacing. So I'm trying that. I'm gonna try that. I'm getting bulk up a little bit, getting a little bigger. See if that helps me a little bit. It's
Yeah,
just
and that probably helps you with your mental health too, right? Like you're just going to the gym. You're just like
yeah.
thrashing those whatever you do at the gym.
Yeah, well, I'm going to the gym. I'm doing
Sorry.
weights and stuff, and I'm also doing Krav Maga, martial arts, and that's also so.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
so that I can, and and I chose Krav Maga because it's almost like street fighting. It's not polite fighting. It's there's no rules really. It's gouge a guy's eye out and stuff. Or go for the throat and stuff, and just so I can feel a little meaner.
Is there anything you do to plug into just the general community at large? Doesn't even have to be the acting community. Just that kind of ties you to North Hollywood, Los Angeles.
Uh, I don't quite get that question. Ask me again.
I mean, like, is there anything that really helps to ground you? Because since I moved to LA, it's a very unique city in that you're pulled in so many different directions
Yeah,
and you have to establish for yourself kind of what world you want to be living in. And so you
I
want to
think I get
pursue a
it.
hobby or a community. You know what I mean?
I think I get it. Well, I have a really good support group when it comes to my friends. Most of my friends are working actors, and they're successful in the sense that they make a good living. Some of them really good living doing that, but they're all very humble. The ones that are my close friends are humble people. Uh, so it just keeps it real. A lot of people, they get all, especially when you first get here, you hear, oh, I'm going to this party. There's going to be this producer there. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go there. The truth is that, it doesn't mean much. That artificial, you know, um, Hollywood life or whatever, isn't that real? You know, the reality is, my friends and I, we're going to auditions and then we're getting together and having a beer afterwards or whatever. And besides that, I mean, I guess it's just the daily routines of trying to do something, either taking a class or doing scenes or going to the gym or whatever. Just living your life
Living
and
your
and
life.
trying not to
That's
yeah,
awesome,
and
man.
trying not to be a poser. Like
Live your life authentically,
yeah,
like
because there's
you want
so
to live
many
your life.
people. Oh, I'm this and I'm that and I'm a producer and I'm a actor and I'm a this and I'm a that and yeah, you learn pretty early on that there's a lot of BS out there, and then the people that are for real are not usually like that. You know, the people who are actually doing it and not just talking about it is different.
Yeah. Well, you certainly live it. You live the Hollywood actor lifestyle, man.
Thank you.
And that's a genuine compliment, because that's what I'm trying to illustrate with this
Yeah.
podcast is what is a real Hollywood actor. It's not something in the tabloids.
Yeah, I'm definitely
You know,
not.
it's something. No, you're a working actor. You're doing it, man, and you are incredibly inspirational.
Oh,
and
thanks, man.
I'm so glad we have the opportunity to have you on the podcast,
Oh,
man.
no problem, man. I'm happy to be here.